I signed the new will on a Tuesday morning in October, sitting in a lawyer's office that smelled like leather and old books, crossing out my son's name from every document that had once promised him everything I'd built over 40 years of backbreaking work. The lawyer, a kind woman named Margaret who'd known our family for decades, looked at me with concern in her eyes and asked if I was absolutely certain about this decision. "Mrs. Patterson," she said gently, "this is irrevocable. Once these papers are filed, your son Michael will inherit nothing. Your entire estate, the business, the properties, the savings, will go to charity. Are you sure you want to do this?" I looked at her with eyes that had cried themselves dry over the past 6 months and said words I never thought I'd say about the boy I'd carried for 9 months, nursed through fevers, put through college, and loved more than my own life. My son forgot who raised him the moment he married that woman. He forgot the mother who sacrificed everything so he could have everything. So yes, I'm sure. Let him inherit nothing except the memory of what he threw away. I signed my name with a hand that didn't shake, and in that moment, I felt something break inside me that would never heal. The last thread connecting me to the child who'd once been my whole world. My name is Margaret Patterson. I'm 63 years old. And this is the story of how I lost my son while he was still alive, and why sometimes the cruelest thing a parent can do is finally stop pretending that love alone is enough. I raised Michael by myself from the time he was 6 months old. His father, Tom, died in a construction accident when I was 25 years old, leaving me with a baby, a mortgage, and exactly $347 in our savings account. I remember standing at Tom's funeral holding Michael in my arms, watching them lower the only man I'd ever loved into the ground, and thinking that I had 2 choices. I could fall apart, or I could become strong enough for both of us. I chose strength, though God knows there were nights I cried myself to sleep wishing I could choose differently. Those early years were brutal in ways I can't fully articulate. I worked 2 jobs, days as a receptionist at a dentist's office, and nights cleaning office buildings downtown. I'd drop Michael off at my mother's house at 6 in the morning, work until 5, pick him up, feed him dinner, put him to bed, and then head out again at 9 to scrub toilets and vacuum floors in empty corporate buildings until 3 in the morning. I'd come home, sleep for 2 hours and do it all over again. "You're going to kill yourself," my mother said more than once, watching me barely able to keep my eyes open as I picked up Michael for the day. "I'm keeping us alive," I'd respond. There's a difference. I missed so much of his early childhood because of those jobs. Missed his first steps because I was answering phones. Missed his first day of kindergarten because I couldn't afford to take time off. Missed class parties and field trips and all those little moments that I'd imagined experiencing when I was pregnant and naive enough to think life would turn out the way I'd planned. But I was there for the important things. I was there when he had nightmares, holding him until he fell back asleep. I was there when he got sick, calling in to work and risking my job because my son needed his mother. I was there teaching him to read, helping with homework, making sure he knew that even though his father was gone and I was always working, he was loved more than anything in this world. By the time Michael was 8, I'd saved enough to buy a small cleaning business from an elderly couple who were retiring. It wasn't much, just 3 commercial contracts and a van that barely ran, but it was mine. I named it Patterson Services, and I poured every ounce of energy I had into making it successful. I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life, taking on every contract I could get, hiring employees as the business grew, reinvesting every penny back into equipment and marketing. Michael grew up in the back offices of the buildings I cleaned. He'd do his homework sitting at receptionist desks after everyone had gone home, would help me vacuum when he got older, learned the value of hard work by watching me do it every single day. I used to tell him, "This business is our future. Everything I'm building is for you, so you never have to struggle the way I have. So you can go to college and become something more than your mother could be. You're everything, Mom," he'd say, looking up from his math homework with those big brown eyes that looked just like his father's. "I want to be exactly like you." Those words kept me going through the exhaustion, through the years when I couldn't remember the last time I'd bought myself new clothes, or gone out with friends, or done anything that wasn't work or being a mother. Because I had purpose. I had a reason. I was building something for my son. The business grew. By the time Michael was in high school, Patterson Services had 20 employees and contracts with some of the biggest buildings in the city. We moved out of our tiny apartment into a real house. Nothing fancy, but it had a yard and Michael had his own room, and I had a kitchen where I could actually cook meals for us. I started making real money, more than I'd ever imagined possible for a girl who'd grown up poor and barely finished high school before getting married. I put money away for Michael's college fund. Every bonus, every extra contract, every bit of profit went into that account. I wanted him to have choices I never had. I wanted him to go to whatever school he wanted without worrying about student loans or working through college. I wanted to give him the freedom to pursue his dreams. "You should spend some of that money on yourself," my mother said when I told her I'd saved $50,000 for Michael's education. "Buy yourself something nice. Take a vacation. You've earned it." "I'll rest when Michael's settled," I said. "Right now, this is what I need to do." Michael got accepted to a good university 3 hours away. I was so proud I cried when we opened the acceptance letter together. He wanted to study business, said he wanted to come back after graduation and help me run Patterson Services, maybe expand it into a regional company. We talked about our dreams for hours, planning the future like it was a thing we could control. "We'll be partners," he said the night before he left for college. "Patterson and Son Services. Or maybe Son and Mom Services. That sounds better." "I like Patterson and Son," I said, hugging him tight. "It sounds official, professional." "I'm going to make you proud, Mom. I'm going to take everything you've taught me and build something amazing with you. You've already made me proud. Every single day of your life, you've made me proud." He left for college, and I became one of those mothers who counted the days until he'd come home for breaks. I'd work myself to exhaustion during the week, and then spend his visits cooking all his favourite foods, asking about his classes, his friends, his life. He seemed happy, thriving, becoming the man I'd always hoped he'd be. Then, in his junior year, he met Vanessa. He brought her home for Thanksgiving, and I knew immediately that she was going to be a problem. Not because she wasn't pretty. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women are, with perfect hair and expensive clothes, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Not because she was rude. She was perfectly polite, saying all the right things in a tone that somehow made them sound insincere. It was the way she looked at our house. The way her gaze swept over our modest living room with its second-hand furniture and family photos in frames from discount stores. The way she said, "Oh, how quaint," about the kitchen where I'd cooked her Thanksgiving dinner. The way she asked what I did for a living with that particular inflection that said she already knew and had already judged it. "I own a cleaning business," I said proudly. "Patterson Services. We have contracts with most of the major office buildings downtown." "Oh, how interesting," she said, in a tone that meant the exact opposite. "So you're like a maid?" "I'm a business owner. I started with nothing and built a company that employs 23 people. That's very entrepreneurial. Michael told me you've done well for yourself despite the circumstances. Despite the circumstances. Like being widowed with a baby was a character flaw rather than a tragedy. Like building a successful business from nothing was impressive, despite circumstances, rather than because of determination and sacrifice." "Vanessa's father owns a pharmaceutical company," Michael said, oblivious to the tension. "She grew up in Westchester, went to private schools. Her whole family is like super accomplished." "How nice for them," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Over dinner, Vanessa talked about her family, their summer home in the Hamptons, her father's yacht, her mother's charity work. Every story was a carefully veiled comparison to our humble existence. Her father had graduated from Harvard. Michael was at a state school. Her family vacationed in Europe. We'd gone camping in state parks when Michael was young, because that's what I could afford. Her mother didn't work because she didn't have to. I worked because I had no choice. Michael hung on her every word like she was revealing the secrets of a world he'd never been allowed to enter. And maybe that's what hurt most. Seeing my son look at this woman's privileged life with something like hunger, like our life together hadn't been enough, like everything I'd provided was suddenly insufficient now that he'd seen how the other half lived. "Your mother seems nice," I heard Vanessa say to Michael later that night when they thought I was asleep. They were in his room, voices carrying through the thin walls. "She's amazing," Michael said. "Everything I have, everything I am is because of her, of course. I just mean, don't you ever wish you'd had more? Like a normal family. A mother who could focus on being a mother instead of working all the time. She worked because she had to. Because my dad died and she had to support us. I understand that. It's very admirable what she did. But now that you're older, now that you're building your own life, you don't want to be held back by obligation, right? You want to be free to create the life you deserve. What do you mean? I just mean that sometimes family can be limiting. My parents always taught me to love them but not let them dictate my choices. To honour them but also honour myself and my own dreams. My mum would never hold me back. She wants me to succeed. I'm sure she does. I'm just saying that success sometimes means growing beyond where you came from. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means you're ready for more. I lay in bed listening to Vanessa plant seeds of doubt in my son's mind, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. This woman was going to take him from me. I knew it with the same certainty I'd known Tom was dead when I got that phone call from the hospital. Michael graduated from college the following spring with honours. I was there in the audience, crying proud tears, watching my son walk across that stage in his cap and gown. The moment after the ceremony, surrounded by other families celebrating, he found me and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. We did it, Mum. We actually did it. You did it, baby. I just paid for it. No, we did it together. None of this happens without you. Vanessa appeared beside us, her family trailing behind her. Father in an expensive suit, mother in pearls, younger brother looking bored. Michael, darling, my parents want to take us to dinner. They made reservations at that French place we love. Oh, I was planning to go to dinner with my mum. Your mother is welcome to join us, of course, Vanessa said, with a smile that made it clear I'd be as welcome as a rat in a restaurant. That's okay, I said quickly. You go with Vanessa's family? I'll grab something on the drive home. Mum, no. I want to celebrate with you. We'll celebrate tomorrow. Today is for you and your girlfriend. Go on. He hugged me again, and I watched him walk away with Vanessa and her family, watched him try to fit into their world of expensive restaurants and casual wealth. And I drove home alone, stopping at a fast food place for a burger I barely tasted, wondering when I'd become an obligation rather than a priority in my son's life. He proposed to Vanessa that summer. Didn't ask my opinion, didn't even tell me he was planning it. I found out when I saw her posting photos on social media. The ring, the proposal story, all of it curated for maximum likes and comments. I called Michael that night, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. Congratulations on your engagement. I saw the photos online. Mom! I was going to call you tomorrow. I wanted to tell you in person, but Vanessa couldn't wait to post about it. When did you know you were going to propose? This seems sudden. We've been together over a year. I love her, Mum. She's perfect for me. Is she? You barely know her. I know her well enough to know I want to spend my life with her. What about your plans to come work with me? We were going to expand the business together, remember? A pause. Then. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Vanessa's father offered me a position at his company. Management track, really good salary, benefits. It's an incredible opportunity. But what about Patterson Services? What about our plans? Mom, be realistic. Dad's company is a pharmaceutical corporation. It's a much better career opportunity than managing a cleaning service. Managing a cleaning service. Like the business I'd built from nothing, that had put him through college, that had given him every opportunity, was something small and embarrassing. I see. And where will you be working? Please tell me it's local. Actually, the corporate office is in Connecticut. We'll be moving after the wedding. Connecticut. 3 states away. And he was telling me like it was a foregone conclusion, like my input didn't matter, like we hadn't spent his entire life planning a future where we'd work together. You're really going to move away? To work for her father? To leave everything we've built? I'm not leaving everything. I'm just taking a different opportunity. You should be happy for me, Mum. This is what you wanted, for me to be successful. I wanted us to be successful together. That was always the plan. Plans change. I'm an adult now. I get to make my own choices. Of course you do. I just thought I'd be part of those choices. You are part of them. You're my mother. You'll always be important to me. But Vanessa is going to be my wife. She has to come first now. Those words hit me like a physical blow. She has to come first now. As if there was a hierarchy of love, and I'd just been demoted. As if everything I'd sacrificed, Everything I'd done could be replaced by a woman he'd known for a year. I understand, I said quietly. Congratulations again on your engagement. I hope you'll be very happy. Mom, don't be like that. Like what? I'm being supportive. Isn't that what you want? I want you to actually be happy for me, not just say you are. What I want doesn't seem to matter much anymore. That's not fair. No, Michael. What's not fair is spending 24 years raising a son by myself, sacrificing everything so he could have a better life, only to have him throw it all away to chase some girl into a life where I don't fit. I'm not throwing anything away. And this isn't about you, Mum. This is about my future, my marriage, my life. You're right. It is your life. Live it however you want. I'm just the woman who made it possible. I hung up before he could respond, before I could say things that couldn't be unsaid. And I sat in my kitchen, the kitchen I'd worked 3 jobs to afford, and cried for the little boy who used to promise he'd always need his mother. The wedding was 8 months later, a lavish affair at a country club I'd never heard of in Connecticut. Vanessa's family paid for everything, which was good because I couldn't have afforded even a fraction of what they spent. The invitation had come formally in the mail, like I was any other guest, rather than the mother of the groom. I drove up alone for the wedding, stayed in a modest hotel instead of the resort where everyone else was staying, because I couldn't justify spending $300 a night. The rehearsal dinner was the night before, and when I arrived at the restaurant, I was seated at a table with distant relatives of Vanessa's family, while Michael and Vanessa held court at the head table with her parents. "Excuse me," I said to one of the coordinators. "I think there's been a mistake. I'm Michael's mother. Shouldn't I be at the family table?" The coordinator checked her seating chart, looking uncomfortable. "This is where the bride requested you be seated. If you'd like to discuss it with her, no, it's fine. This is fine." I sat through that dinner watching my son laugh and toast with Vanessa's family, barely glancing in my direction. When it came time for speeches, Vanessa's father spoke about gaining a son. Vanessa's mother spoke about the beautiful couple. Michael spoke about finding his place in the world and the family that had welcomed him. Not once did he mention me. Not once did he acknowledge the woman who'd raised him alone, who'd worked herself nearly to death so he could sit in that room wearing a designer suit eating expensive food. I was invisible, erased, an inconvenient remnant of his past that didn't fit the narrative of his new life. I left early, before dessert, and no one noticed. The wedding itself was beautiful in that cold. Formal way expensive weddings can be. I wore my best dress, which looked cheap next to the designer gowns everyone else wore. And I sat in the second row on the groom's side, watching strangers be seated in the front row, because Vanessa had deemed them more important than the mother of the groom when the ceremony began and Michael walked down the aisle with Vanessa's father, because apparently that's what they'd decided was appropriate. I felt something inside me finally break. There was no moment for the mother of the groom. No dance, no speech, no acknowledgement. I was a guest at my own son's wedding, watching him join a family that wasn't mine. The reception was worse. Vanessa had arranged for the traditional mother-son dance, but when that moment came, she'd created a tribute to parents, where Michael danced with her mother while Vanessa danced with her father. And I stood on the sidelines watching my son honour everyone except the one person who'd given up everything for him. I lasted through dinner and left before the cake cutting. Drove back to my hotel, changed out of my uncomfortable dress, and cried harder than I'd cried since Tom's funeral. I'd lost my son, not to death, which would have at least been final and clear. I'd lost him to a woman who'd convinced him that where he came from was something to be ashamed of, and to a life where I didn't belong. I didn't hear from Michael for 2 weeks after the wedding. When he finally called, it was brief and perfunctory. "Hey, Mum, just wanted to let you know we're back from the honeymoon. Italy was amazing. That's nice. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk much at the wedding. It was just so crazy, you know? So many people to see. I understand. It was a beautiful wedding. Thanks. Listen, I'm starting my new job next week, so things are going to be pretty busy for a while. But we should get together soon. Maybe you could come visit Connecticut. Maybe. I'm pretty busy with the business. Right. Well, I'll call you soon, okay? Okay. But he didn't call soon. Weeks became months, became a year. and our relationship consisted of occasional phone calls where he talked about his job and his new house and his new life, never once asking about mine, never once seeming to remember that I existed beyond being someone he should probably check in with out of obligation. I saw photos on social media, Michael and Vanessa at charity galas, at Vanessa's family events, living a life that looked nothing like the one I'd raised him in. He'd changed. His clothes were different, more expensive. His hair was styled differently. Even the way he spoke had changed, adopting the cadence and vocabulary of Vanessa's world. He'd become someone I didn't recognise, and I grieved for the boy I'd lost. The breaking point came 2 years after the wedding. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Stage 2, treatable, but it required surgery and chemotherapy and facing the possibility of death. I called Michael to tell him, expecting. I don't know what I expected. Concern, support, for him to remember that I was his mother and I needed him. That's rough, Mum. I'm really sorry to hear that. The surgery is in 3 weeks, then I'll start chemo. Do you have someone who can take care of you, like a friend or neighbour? I was hoping you could come home, just for the surgery maybe. I'm scared, Michael. I'm really scared. A pause. Then, the thing is, Mum, work is really intense right now. I'm up for a promotion and I can't really take time off. And Vanessa, she's not good with medical stuff. Hospitals make her uncomfortable. I'm not asking Vanessa. I'm asking my son to be there when his mother has cancer surgery. I know, and I wish I could, but I just can't right now. I'm sure you'll be fine. You're strong. You've always been strong. I've had to be strong. But I'm asking you to let me be weak for once. To be there for me the way I've always been there for you. Mum, don't be dramatic. It's surgery, not the end of the world. You'll get through it and you'll be fine. I'll call to check on you, okay? You know what, Michael? Don't bother. What? Don't bother calling. Don't bother checking in. Don't bother pretending you care about anyone except yourself and your new family. That's not fair. Just because I can't drop everything and come running, I dropped everything for you every single day of your life. Every day. But you can't take 1 week to be there when I have cancer surgery. So yeah, I think I'm being perfectly fair. I have responsibilities now. A wife, a career, a life that doesn't revolve around you. I never asked for your life to revolve around me. I just asked for you to remember who the fuck raised you. I hung up before he could respond, and I went through surgery alone, stayed in the hospital alone, started chemotherapy alone. My employees from Patterson Services rallied around me, driving me to appointments, bringing me meals, checking on me daily. The people I paid to work for me showed up more reliably than my own son. Michael sent flowers to the hospital. An expensive arrangement with a card that said, "Thinking of you, Michael and Vanessa." Like we were acquaintances rather than mother and son. Like a florist delivery could substitute for his presence. I survived the surgery and the chemo, lost my hair, lost weight, lost the last illusions I had about my relationship with my son, and I made a decision. I called my lawyer, Margaret, and told her I wanted to change my will. Originally, everything was set to go to Michael. The business, my house, my savings, everything I'd built over 40 years. Now, I wanted it all to go to charity instead. Scholarships for single mothers trying to go to college, donations to cancer research. Anything except my son who'd proven he valued his new life more than the mother who'd given him his first life. Are you sure about this? Margaret asked. It's a drastic step. Maybe you should wait. Give yourself time to heal and think about it. I've had nothing but time to think about it. Months of chemotherapy sitting in a chair alone, thinking about how my son couldn't be bothered to visit. Years of watching him build a life where I don't matter. I'm done thinking about it. I'm done hoping he'll remember who I am and what I did for him. What if he comes around? What if he realises his mistake? Then he'll realise it too late. Some lessons need to be learned the hard way. This is his. I have to ask, is this about punishing him or protecting yourself? I thought about that question for a long time. Both. He's hurt me more than anyone else ever has, including his father dying. At least Tom didn't choose to leave. Michael chose to walk away from everything we had. He chose a woman and a life that required forgetting where he came from. So yes, I want him to understand what that choice cost him. But more than that, I need to protect myself from hoping he'll change, from waiting for him to come back, from letting him hurt me anymore. Okay, let's draw up the new documents. So I did it. Signed away Michael's inheritance, set up a foundation in Tom's name to help single mothers the way I wished someone had helped me, made sure that every dollar I'd worked for would go to people who needed it, rather than a son who'd shown he didn't value it. I didn't tell Michael immediately. Part of me wanted to see if he'd come around on his own, if he'd wake up one day and realise what he'd lost. But months passed and nothing changed. His calls became even more infrequent. Every few months he'd call and have a superficial conversation, asking nothing real and sharing nothing real, just going through the motions of familial obligation. Then, last month, he called with news. "Hey, Mum, I wanted to let you know that Vanessa's pregnant. We're having a baby." I should have felt joy. I should have been excited about becoming a grandmother. Instead, I felt nothing. "Congratulations. I'm sure you'll be wonderful parents." "Thanks. We're really excited. It's still early, but we wanted to tell family first." Family. The word felt like a mockery. "Will you come visit when the baby's born? I know things have been weird between us, but this is your grandchild. A fresh start, maybe." "I don't think so, Michael." "What? Why not?" "Because I'm not going to attach myself to another generation of your family, only to be pushed aside when it's convenient. I'm not going to love another child who'll be taught that I don't matter." "That's not what happened." "That's exactly what happened. You chose your wife's family over me. You chose your career over being there when I had cancer. You chose convenience over commitment. And now you want me to be excited about a grandchild. I'll probably barely know because you live 3 states away and can't be bothered to visit your own mother." "I visit. We came last Christmas. For 3 hours. 3 hours in 2 years, Michael. You stayed at your in-laws' house and stopped by mine for 3 hours like I was an obligation on your holiday to-do list. What do you want from me? To give up my life and move back home? To quit my job and work for your cleaning company? I'm building something, Mum. I thought you'd understand that since you built something yourself. I built something for you. That was always the point. Patterson Services was never about me. It was about giving you opportunities. But you took those opportunities and used them to leave me behind. So no, I don't understand. I don't understand how the son I raised could be so selfish. I'm not selfish for having my own life. You're selfish for forgetting who gave you that life, for taking everything I sacrificed and acting like it meant nothing. For letting your wife erase me from your history because I don't fit the image of the family you want to present to the world. That's not true. Vanessa convinced you to abandon your plans to work with me. Vanessa moved you 3 states away. Vanessa seated me with strangers at your wedding. Vanessa made you feel like where you came from was something to be ashamed of. And you let her. That's the worst part. You let her. I'm not doing this anymore. I called with good news and you're turning it into an attack. Then let me give you some news too. I changed my will, Michael. You're not in it anymore. Everything I own, everything I've built, it's all going to charity when I die. You don't get the business, the house, the savings, nothing. Because you made it clear that you don't value what I've given you. So when I'm gone, you'll inherit exactly what you deserve. Nothing. Silence on the other end. Then, you're kidding. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. You're punishing me for having my own life, for getting married and having a career. I'm teaching you that actions have consequences, that you can't treat people like they're disposable and expect them to keep giving you things. You disposed of me, Michael. You threw away our relationship, our plans, everything we had. So I'm throwing away the inheritance you assumed was yours regardless of how you treated me. I can't believe you'd do this. After everything. After everything I did for you, you mean? After working myself nearly to death so you could go to college? After building a business so you'd have security? After raising you alone and giving you every opportunity? Yes, after all that, I'd do this. I'd do. Because you forgot all of it anyway, so at least now someone who'll appreciate it will benefit. I need to go. Vanessa is calling. Of course she is. Go to your wife. That's what you do best. Run to Vanessa whenever life gets uncomfortable. He hung up, and I sat in my house, the house I'd worked so hard to buy, and felt something like peace. It hurt, God, it hurt like nothing else ever had. But it was honest hurt. Clean hurt. The kind that comes from finally stopping pretending that things were okay when they weren't. That was 3 weeks ago. He hasn't called since. I don't expect him to. I've spent the last few weeks thinking about everything, about Tom and the life we'd planned, about the scared 25-year-old widow I'd been, about the sacrifices I'd made thinking they meant something. And I've realised something important. I did nothing wrong. I loved my son with everything I had. I gave him everything I could. If that wasn't enough, if he chose a life where I don't fit, that's his loss. Not my failure. But it doesn't hurt any less knowing that. I think about the grandson or granddaughter I'll probably never know. Think about birthdays I won't be invited to, and holidays I'll spend alone while Michael celebrates with Vanessa's family. Think about growing old by myself because the one person who was supposed to be there for me decided I wasn't worth the inconvenience. Some nights I wonder if I was too harsh, if I should have been more understanding about his career, his marriage, his new life. If I should have made it easier for him to include me instead of forcing him to choose. But then I remember that I never forced him to choose. He made that choice on his own. He chose Vanessa over me at every turn. He chose comfort over commitment. He chose his new family over the mother who'd been his only family for most of his life, and that choice deserves consequences. I'm not taking him out of the will to be cruel. I'm doing it because leaving him everything would be letting him win, would be saying that it's okay to treat people who love you like they're disposable, as long as you're polite about it, would be enabling the same behaviour in the next generation, teaching my grandchild that family connections can be discarded when they're inconvenient or embarrassing. No, better to let the money go to people who need it. To single mothers who are living the life I lived, who need help and support, and someone to believe they can make it. To cancer patients who are fighting the same battle I fought, alone. To people who'll appreciate it because they understand struggle in a way Michael never will. He'll be fine. He has his job and his wife's family money, and a life that doesn't need me or my inheritance. He's built something without me, just like he wanted. I hope it's enough for him. I hope when I'm gone and he's 40 years old with a teenage son or daughter, he doesn't look back and realise what he lost. Doesn't realise that money and status and living in the right neighbourhood can't replace the unconditional love of a mother who'd have done anything for him. But if he does realise it, it'll be too late. And maybe that's the lesson he needs to learn, that some things once broken can't be fixed. That some people once pushed away won't keep coming back. That love isn't infinite, and eventually even mothers run out of chances to give. I'm 63 years old. I survived losing my husband, raising a son alone, building a business from nothing and beating cancer. I'll survive losing my son too, even though it hurts more than all of those things combined, because at least this time I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing to protect myself from further hurt. I'm choosing to let go of someone who let go of me years ago but never had the honesty to admit it. I'm choosing to be done, and maybe that's the saddest part of this whole story. Not that I'm taking my son out of my will, but that doing so feels like relief instead of revenge. That cutting him off feels like self-preservation instead of punishment. That I've reached a point where loving him from a distance is less painful than trying to stay close to someone who made it. Clear he doesn't want me there. I loved my son. I love him still, in that deep, permanent way mothers love their children regardless of what they do. But love isn't enough anymore. Love didn't keep him from leaving. Love didn't bring him back when I needed him. Love didn't make him remember who raised him. So now he gets to remember through absence. Through the inheritance that isn't there. Through knowing that his mother loved him enough to sacrifice everything while he lived, but not enough to reward his indifference after she died. My legacy won't be the business I built or the money I saved. It'll be the lesson I taught too late, that people who love you aren't optional. That mothers aren't disposable. That you can't spend your life taking from someone and expect them to keep giving even from the grave. Michael forgot who raised him. So I removed his name from everything I own, and now we both have to live with that choice. Mine to protect myself. His to lose what he never valued anyway. This is how families end. Not with dramatic fights or final words, but with slow erosion, with choices made over years that add up to distance that can't be crossed, with love that turns to hurt, that turns to resignation, that turns to nothing. I wish I could say I'll forgive him someday. that we'll reconcile before I die and heal what's broken between us. But I'm too old for false hope, too tired for pretending. This is it. This is how it ends. With a mother who gave everything and a son who took it all and walked away. With an inheritance removed and a relationship that exists only in memory and obligation. With a lesson that came too late, that you can sacrifice everything for your children. And sometimes they'll still choose to sacrifice you. That's not the ending anyone wants. But it's the ending we get, and I'm finally okay with that. Not happy. Not at peace. But okay, 'cause I did everything right. I loved completely, sacrificed endlessly, gave everything I had. If that wasn't enough, it's not because I failed. It's because some people, even your children, will take everything you offer and still leave you with nothing. That's the truth no one tells you about parenthood. That you can do everything right and still lose. That love doesn't guarantee love in return. That raising a child doesn't mean they'll still be your child when they grow up. I learned that lesson the hardest way possible. And now it's Michael's turn to learn what it costs to forget where you came from. I hope he learns it. Well, because I won't be there. To teach him anymore. I'm done teaching. Done sacrificing. Done loving someone who couldn't love me. Back the same way, I'm just done, and maybe that's okay. Too. Maybe being done is the only piece left for mothers. Like me. The ones who loved too much and got back too little and finally learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stop trying. So I stopped, and I removed his name, and now we both live with what that means. Forever.